This video is a part 9 of a series I'm making about my last trip to Asia. If you want to see part 8, click on the link in the description down below. Hey, it's me, Julie, and today I'm giving you guys part 9 of my travel journal series. In this video, we take a proper tour around Seoul, going to places like the Palace grounds, the Design Plaza, and the Olympic Park. So, I hope you guys enjoy! We started out the day by going next door at the convenience store to grab our breakfast and have a seat near the windows to watch the cars go by. Meanwhile, on my journal, I began my spread by adding the usual, the weather forecast, the highs and lows, and the time I woke up and went to sleep that day. On that morning, we planned to take the subway to City Hall, but we got lost. And since the weather was nice and we were halfway up there anyways, we decided to go walking instead. Also, I was wearing these shiny boots that were the most uncomfortable things ever. Meanwhile, on my journal, I'm adding this map of the City Hall region that I found in a magazine provided by the hotel. So later on, I can situate myself geographically and see how much I made my feet suffer on that day. As you can see, we were still making our way towards City Hall, and this was where we were seriously lost between alleyways and tight corridors. But of course, that didn't stop me from having fun. Thankfully, the detour was brief and we were right back on track towards our first destination. At this point, I had only one thing on my mind. Yep, ABBA was back on my mind. For very brief though, because land in sight. I repeat, land in sight. We were finally at City Hall. Back on my journal, I'm just adding the section about the places we visited that day, the first being Seoul Plaza and City Hall. I'm also adding this Instax picture taken of me in front of the I Saw You sign on this page, just for an extra pizzazz. After we were done taking pictures, we crossed the street because we saw a crowd and performers and we wanted to see what was up.
Join us and take pictures with the commander. 지금부터 승려분을 향한 순례 행렬이 거행되겠습니다. Ladies and gentlemen, the Sunla Parade headed down to Seoul will now begin.
Yeah, so apparently the thing that was happening was actually a parade. Anyways, once we were done with the City Hall region, we were making our way towards the subway station that we knew was nearby, because our next stop was the Gyeongbokgung Palace, which might as well be one of the more famous cultural landmarks in Seoul. So I was pretty excited to see this one, but to get there was a little bit more complicated than what one would imagine. First, in the green line, we had one stop before we had to transfer to the orange line. And there was a lot of walking between lines just to do the transferring. Anyways, it is in this line, a few stations down, that the palace awaits for us. Yeah, remember when we got lost in Seoul Station? We actually couldn't find the exit. That's the reason behind my comment. But hey, look, we're already out the turnstile, so everything was gonna be alright. The way out. And even though we weren't out of the station yet, we were beginning to see artwork being displayed as we were coming out of the undergrounds, which I found pretty cool as an art lover myself. And this was our first look into the palace grounds once we got out. Yes indeed, Julie. This place is beautiful. But before we go in my journal, I'm just adding in that we visited the palace grounds. Here, we're inside the main gate, which is free to roam around. However, if you want to go further into the palace, you have to either buy a ticket or wear a hanbok. Since it was very hot outside, we decided not to wear the traditional garments and just buy the tickets instead. And do you see this paper right here? Yeah, it's a flyer with the map of the palace offered at the ticket booth. I kept it so I could eventually cut it out and place it in my journal. With our tickets in hand, we were ready to go through the second inner gate. Inside the second gate, there wasn't really anything different to look at, a lot of people going by, but nothing too mesmerizing. But then through the third inner gate, that's where the money shot lies, aka the throne hall. This is where the king would formally grant audiences to his officials, give declarations of national importance, and greet foreign envoys and ambassadors during the Joseon dynasty. The architecture of this place is quite the marvel. I love the amount of attention to details, like the patterns on the architrave and on the ceiling. My favorite detail was the golden golden dragon placed right at the center top of the hall. It's just an amazing maximalist sight to see. I will say though, I think we could have benefited from an audio guide because we were lacking historical context. And obviously I had to make a fool of myself in another country again. Anyways, I brought home this Korean sightseeing magazine and I really like these pictures of the palace grounds to include in my journal. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do here. The picture I decided to include is the second inner gate. So I'm just spreading a little bit of glue to finally insert that picture in. Once we were done taking pictures and viewing all there was to see in the throne hall, we moved on to explore other parts of the palace. The next place we were heading towards, and I'm sorry for butchering this, was the Cheonggyecheon Pavilion, and this was where important state and royal banquets were held during the Joseon dynasty. So this is it right here. Personally, this was one of my favorite parts of the palace because it was so peaceful and calm compared to the rest of the complex, and I think it being surrounded by water certainly added to the whole serene atmosphere. Anyways, by this time we were heading towards the Folk Museum to Gyeongbokgung, which used to serve as living quarters for the crowned prince and his wife. Unfortunately, we couldn't see inside the buildings because all doors and windows were shut, and again, we lacked historical context of what purpose each individual building served. So I felt a little bit lost in this part of the tour. Back in my bullet journal, I'm adding this picture of me in the palace grounds, and fun fact, this was actually taken on my iPhone and then printed on an Instax, but no one needs to know. Here we were finally arriving near the National Folk Museum of Korea, and something that really caught my attention was this monument for the 12 animals of the zodiac sign. Anyhow, the museum stationed underneath the pagoda uses replicas of historical objects to illustrate the history of traditional Korean villagers' life in ancient times. So there were many objects like manuscripts, utensils, pots, and instruments of the everyday. Now here's a not highly intelligent human pretending to be a mannequin. Bet you haven't seen that one before. With the abundance of stuff we have today, it was great to see the attention to details handcrafted objects had in its creation process in the past, and the appreciation the museum had for these quote-unquote everyday items of the Joseon era. They even had a huge replica of a traditional Korean house inside the museum, but also miniature versions of different types of housings as well. And there that not highly intelligent human goes again trying to be a mannequin. Now on my journal, I'm just adding that we visited the National Folk Museum of Korea. By the time we got out, there were some performances happening outside the pagoda, so we decided to take a seater at the museum steps and watch them for a little while. Eventually, the performance started moving south near the Dowager Chamber, so we felt like it was a great cue to leave the National Folk Museum area and move on towards the next places in the palace. But luckily enough, as we were leaving, the performers parade came back towards us, and we were able to see them really up close. Personally, I love the hat with the ribbon on top. It just seems really fun to bobble it around. At this point, we were getting kind of hungry, so we decided to make our way back to the main entrance, but with a few detours along the way to take in the scenery for the last time. I didn't know this at the time because of the lack of historical context, but this area we were walking through is the King and Queen chambers, which served as primary rest for the royals of the Joseon dynasty. On my journal, I decided to add the palace ticket that we bought to get in, and this pass is extra cool because on the back it has a paragraph giving the historical information on the Gyeongbokgung Palace and its restoration efforts. Here we were finally leaving the Gyeongbokgung Palace, and at this point we were famished, so we were heading towards the nearest restaurant hub, and this meant a good 15-minute walk. On our way there was some sort of event happening in the plaza, and to this day it is still a mystery for me what it was about. And when we arrived at the restaurant hub, we went with KFC because we knew it was something quick, so I'm just adding that to my journal. Once we were done having lunch, we were making our way back near the palace grounds because we were planning on walking all the way towards the Bukchon Hanok village, which is situated after the palace. I did a quick search, and it turns out this was actually a 21-minute walk and the equivalent of a 1.5 kilometer distance, or if you use the imperial system, that roughly translates to almost 1 mile, which isn't that bad if you really think about it. But if you can recall, I was wearing these shiny and uncomfortable boots, so my feet were definitely gonna feel it. Apart from that, in our walk, it was amusing to see the gradual change in scenery from the blocky and huge westernized buildings to smaller and traditional Korean village houses. On our way there, we found this small, cute commercial hub with cafes, restaurants, clothing stores that all of them combined created this sort of rustic treasure within that larger, busy city context of Seoul. While we get there, back on my bullet journal, I decided to start a new spread because turns out we did a lot on this day and all my elements didn't fit on the first page. So the first thing I did was to add this map of the Bukchon Hanok village that I cut out of a magazine onto the new page. Here we finally arrived at the village, and this place was full of hills, so at this point, I was dying.
I'm dying.
It felt like we were closer to the mountains than ever before, and at the top of this hill was actually something I've been looking forward to do, which was to visit a small tea shop called Chateau, and that's exactly what I'm writing here on my journal. As you guys already know, I love tea, and I thought it would be quite the experience to have some in a proper tea house situated in a traditional Korean village. So here we are. The tea I chose was a cold drink because I was feeling rather hot from all the walking. But if you get the hot tea, there's a whole demonstration that comes along with it. And while we have our tea, back on my journal, I decided to draw this tea set because I just fell in love with the whole space, vibe, and obviously the set. So this really was just my way of eternalizing this special moment. And now I'm just adding some finishing touches and we're done. For now, that is. I forgot to say this before, but my tea was teaing. It was refreshing and perfect for that hot sunny day. To be quite honest, I don't actually remember what it tasted like, but no negative emotions come to mind from this moment, so I'm pretty positive it was good. This right here was the closest thing to heaven for me, having tea with some of my favorite people in a cozy, beautiful space. Now, here I'm adding that drawing I made previously on the second page with some help of some old-fashioned glue. Along with it, I'm placing this Instax picture of my sister and I in Chateau with Artie, and by this time we were ready to go and see the rest of the village. But I quickly want to say I really recommend this place if you're ever in Seoul. This by far was one of my favorite moments of all of the trip. Anyways, we were making our way through the houses at the Bukchon Hanok village, and if you're not familiar with this place, this is an ancient residential neighborhood of Seoul that historically served as residential quarters for nobility and high-ranking government officials during the Joseon era. The preservation of the unique Korean architecture style here caused this area to accidentally or not become sort of a tourist attraction on its own, as you can see by the amount of people walking through these streets, including us. Back on my bullet journal, I'm adding this cutout from a Seoul guide that includes a picture and explains a little bit about the village. I actually had to unglue the map because I decided to put the cutout in the back, but it all worked out in the end. I also added finishing touches near the tea set drawing by adding a description of my doodle, the name of the tea house we stopped at earlier. Finally, I'm retracing my sketch with a fine point black marker in some areas to give it a little bit more depth. Something I forgot to mention is that since this was a residential area, we had to move quietly through the village so not to disturb the people living here. And oh my god, you guys, look how cute these stores are. And here I'm just adding that we visited the Bukchon Hanok village. Anyways, by this point, we were leaving the Bukchon Hanok village and making our way towards the Seoul Tower, which means we had to walk towards the nearest metro station. So that also meant walking for another 10 to 15 minutes from where we were. And remember how I said about the gradual change in scenery? Yep, you could definitely notice it again. I don't know why this amuses me, but it does. Here we were finally arriving at the metro, and look how pretty it is! It's so purpley! I gotta say, one of the most aesthetic metros I've ever been to. Now, from looking at this, one might assume we arrived at the Seoul Tower stop, but we actually had to transfer from the orange to the blue line to get to our final stop at the Myeongdong station. Which, if you're paying close attention, it is indeed the area near our hotel. This was no coincidence. The whole day was carefully planned and arranged this way so we could see the sunset at nighttime in the Seoul Tower, but also be able to walk back to the hotel by the end of the day. Overall, it took us 20 minutes of metro riding to get to our final stop, and once we got there,
이미 하차 처리가 되었
my subway pass didn't work for some reason. Eventually, I did get out, but don't ask me how. Not because I don't want to talk about it, it's just that I literally don't know how. The sun was beginning to set, and we still had some distance to go through. By some, I mean 1.2 kilometers to be exact. Which roughly translates to about 20 minutes of walking. Despite my inappropriate shoe selection that day, I would say Seoul, like Tokyo, is pretty much a pedestrian-friendly city because look how easy it was to get to the bottom of the Seoul Tower. So yeah, in order to get to the Plaza area of the tower, we needed to catch a lift via cable car to the top. And in order to get to the cable car, you either can take the stairs or this free mini monorail. I took the monorail because my feet were killing me. And a weird fun fact is that
it was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
It may not look like it, but I had a panic attack in this monorail going up. I don't know what caused it, but we were cramped in this tiny car, and the realization that I was in the other side of the world overwhelmed me, and maybe that's what triggered the panic attack. So I wanted to point that out because this will come back as a reoccurring theme throughout this video. Anyways, here we were finally at the cable car stop, and first we needed to buy our tickets to be able to ride to the top. And right from the jump, you already get an insane view of the street below, where we walked from, and the tower up top. While we wait to get on the cable car, here I'm adding another cutout from a magazine. This time it's a picture of the Seoul Tower. After a lot of waiting, we were finally on the last way up to the Tower Plaza, and that's when my anxiety struck again.
I'm kind of scared.
I was trying to make an effort to power through as we continued to climb towards the entrance of the Seoul Tower, and thank God for my sister because she was trying to distract me from my anxiety. This was the first area we passed by, and this place is filled with ducks and lovelocks for some reason. And here I'm just writing down that we visit the Seoul Tower. And if you're not familiar with this place, it's a communication and observation tower that provides signals for big media outlets in Korea. The Plaza has cool amenities like a grass terrace, souvenir shops, food courts, and this amazing view. Next to add to my journal is actually the sticker of the tower that I got in a pack the day before at a store called Artbox in Myeongdong. Hi everyone, so Editing Julie here. I'm here to interrupt the video, but I wanted to give you guys some context to what is happening right now, because when we were at the Seoul Tower Plaza, I had like a major-ish panic attack. So yeah, I didn't film anything. I do have some pictures. I don't have pictures up top in the observatory part of the tower because we didn't go up top because of my panic attack. So I want to show you guys me just like having bad vibes. I don't know how else to explain this, but I look so bad. And I'm half like debating if I'm actually gonna post this picture. But the Plaza is really nice. It's really interesting to go. Even if you're not going up top to like the last, I guess, observatory part of the Seoul Tower thing, it's really nice. So I do recommend going there just to like see what they have. Has plazas, food courts. I took a picture of my burger for some reason. This is the picture of my burger I ate at the Seoul Tower. Not a lot of pictures, huh? But I just lost the footage if I did film anything else. I'm pretty sure I didn't. And it's a nice place to be. It has like a garden and everything. I just wanted to give you guys some context, and that is it. I'm gonna put you guys back into the video and just like static myself out of here. Thank you, current me, for that update. At this point, I was feeling a lot better, and you can tell. You can definitely tell by the way I was having fun and laughing with my family. But coincidentally, it was also when we were leaving the Seoul Tower. And we were making our way back to our hotel room. Eintrade. Quickly apologize for not filming more in this area, and to compensate my lack of filming, enjoyed this amazing view of our way down. Lastly, I also want to mention that I do wish to come back to Seoul so I can view the city from the observatory floor that I didn't get to experience. Nossa, Gi, peraí, fica aí. Não, fica assim. Since Myeongdong was literally a few blocks away, we decided to walk our way back. $10, por favor. Which was an 11-minute distance from the tower. And on our way down, the streets were practically deserted. É pra frente, Ju? Ah, bonito. Ah, Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton. Oh, Shinsegae. Guy. Shinsegae woman. However, the closer we got to the shopping hub, the more people we actually saw. I think this is a good time to mention that we decided to make a stop in Myeongdong again for some reason. I would tell you the reason, but you have to remember it's been 5 years, so I definitely forgot. Back on my bullet journal, I'm adding the final entry of this first page, which is the place we had our meals on that day. Now I'm just adding some finishing touches by retracing some doodles and circling the places we visited that day on this map. After taking a quick peek, your girl was tired. But we were finally at the hotel, and when we arrived, I went straight into upload my footage into my drive. If you're curious, this is how day 10 turned out on my journal. We started out day 11 by grabbing breakfast in the coffee shop next door, and this time I had some sort of cinnamon roll looking croissant paired with a caramel latte. And you guys already know the drill. Here I'm starting up my page by adding the weather forecast, the time I woke up and went to sleep. Once we had our breakfast, we were ready to seize the day. Well, some of us were more ready than others. And on this day specifically, we wanted to visit the Dongdaemun Design Plaza because we were going to take the tour bus stationed there around Seoul. But in order to get there, we first needed to take the subway. Fortunately, the Design Plaza was only 3 stops away from our nearest station, so that meant we didn't have to make any transfers along the way. As my sister struggled to find the best way there, I was doing a little bit of exploring of the station myself, but eventually we were off. The subway ride there was so quick and easy, thank God, as it only took us 15-ish minutes to our final stop. And look, my card was working again! Yay! So this was the first view we had of the Design Plaza, and if you're not familiar with this place, it's a major urban development landmark with neo-futuristic design featuring a fashion hub, exhibition spaces, and a walkable park on its roof. I must say, it is quite an impressive place to experience at least once in a lifetime. And there were people everywhere here. It felt like a proper third space where people could just meet up and hang around. So props to the architect Zaha Hadid who conceptualized this incredible space. It was like being bolted to a hopeful future for a few seconds. On my journal, I grabbed that Seoul magazine again and cut out another picture, this time at the Dongdaemun Design Plaza, to place in today's spread. And guess what song attacked again? That's right, Mamma Mia was stuck in my head again as we were making our way to the bus stop. And while we wait in line to get our passes, next I'm adding this map with the tour bus route onto today's spread. So if I ever want to know where we passed by, I can quickly look at this page. And here's our pass. It's one of those bracelet types of passes. And you know, of course, I went ahead and saved it to include the bracelet in my journal, but I had to cut the excess off because there was no way it was gonna fit it all in the spread. And now I'm just adding a description so I know what this thing is, and yeah. At this point, we were the first ones to enter the bus, so we went straight ahead to the front because we assumed it would have the best view. But my sister and I didn't really like it, so we quickly went a few seats back.
Ai, que horror. Amanhã eu gostava de uma bolacha. De novo. Pera aí. Não, né? Ai!
Here's when we were finally off. So enjoy the visuals and the ride.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for using Seoul City Tour Bus. You can freely hop on and off at whatever stop you want. So please enjoy the city's smooth.
Since this bus was extremely fast, we were able to see the contrast between new skyscrapers with older areas like the seafood market. This may be a bit of a stretch, but I feel like this is one of the ways that the quick development of South Korea in the last 50-ish years can be seen through the urban planning of the main city, that is Seoul. And personally, I love some good city planning. Throughout this tour, there were a few times that we passed by our hotel, and this was the first one. Ooh. We also passed by some familiar places. I started laughing at this point because
Ai, gente, passou aqui. É que se a gente fosse reto, ia demorar 30 minutos. Dá um tchauzinho aqui, ó.
because we realized that when we got lost yesterday, the route was so easy. It was literally a straight line. Also, there was a couple behind us that kept repeating, "I saw you," for some reason.
Huge ice cream cone. Aqui é um river. Vamos aí. Parou onde?
Somewhere we passed by was the area around the Gyeongbokgung Palace, and on this day there were some sort of festivities going on in the Gyeongbokgung Square. And you'll later see that this was happening everywhere. Here we were beginning to contour one of the sides of the palace grounds to get to Cheonggyecheon, aka the Blue Building, which at the time of this recording served as the presidential residence and diplomatic reception hall of South Korea. Now, Cheonggyecheon has actually turned into a tourist attraction.
This stop is Cheonggyecheon, the Blue House.
So now you can visit and walk around inside as it is fully open to the public. At this point, it was midday, and that meant things were starting to get hot under the sun. But since there were no covered seats available, that meant I just had to deal with it. And I dealt with the situation the only way I knew how to.
Não vai não.
And this was when I was starting to wonder
Yesterday.
if what I thought were festivities were actual political demonstrations.
Aqui?
Some places even had American and Korean flags, which made me extra confused.
Olha aquele relógio ali, ó. Esse carro tem muito rápido. Você gosta? É. Mas acho que ele vai super devagar. Ai, mas eu vejo. Acho que ele só vai devagar pra tem trânsito.
This is called the Dongdaemun Gate, and we'll get back to it later. Also, remember when we got lost when arriving at Seoul Station?
대한민국 수도 서울에
Seoul Station.
Yeah, we had a chance to relive our trauma and see it again in a different light, brighter light, if you will. And by that, I mean during the day. This station was also the turnaround point for the bus, which means we were quickly back at the Dongdaemun Gate. Known as the South Gate, it was part of the fortress walls of Seoul. And I'm glad they restored it and kept it as part of the city because I think it gives a bit more character to Seoul. Here we were fast approaching another very familiar place for the second time. which is...
This stop is Myeongdong. This is one of the most famous shopping districts in Korea, where you can enjoy shopping at department stores.
Yep, we were back near our hotel.
This stop is Cheonggyecheon Station. This is where people celebrate the end of the year by hitting the big bell.
But we didn't plan on making our way back to the hotel just yet. There was still a lot to see and places to visit. So we continued on our tour.
Insadong is known as where you can best experience the Korean traditional culture. Thanks to the large complex of stores carrying antiques and antique books, traditional tea room.
At this point, I gotta be honest, I was hungry and had no idea where we were. Very off topic, but I do recommend this tour if you're in Seoul, especially if you're there for a short amount of time, like a weekend.
Korean Jesus.
Because it gives you a general idea of the main tourist attractions while explaining their importances to Korean culture. Finally back on land, the Design Plaza was busier than ever, and I was now noticing the effects of the roofless bus on my hair. Anyway, since we were back at the plaza, we wanted to check out what they had in store at the design market. We were specifically aiming to find a place to eat, but of course we got distracted by all the unique shops like this ethical clothing store with sustainable Korean brand. Eventually, we came across this Korean restaurant called Dongdaemun, and the displays outside made the food look extra yummy, so we had to try it. The restaurant was so busy that they had to separate our groups in different tables. The dish I got was naengmyeon, and it was delicious. While paying for our food, on our way out, they had these business cards, and of course I took one home with me to place it on my journal. I also added a description in the top right corner, and also one under the card detailing that this was the best dish I had in Korea. With our stomachs full, we were ready to do more sightseeing around Seoul. And this time, we emerged from an exit in the other side of the street. We were heading towards the Cheonggyecheon stream, and the path we chose was a 10 to 15 minute walk from where we were. And if you're not familiar with this place, it is a public space contouring a 10.9 kilometer or 6.8 mile long stream. It used to be a part of the sewage system of Seoul until in 2005, it was restored in an urban renewal plan. Apparently, there used to be an elevated highway on top of the stream. However, with the renewal project, this highway was removed, giving space to the public park. As an environmental major myself, I was excited to see it with my own two eyes. And this is how the stream looks like from the top. We got down there through this side gate. Well, I actually don't know if there's a main gate to this stream, so maybe it's just a normal gate. Back on my journal, I'm just adding my usual prompt of places we've been that day, like the bus ride and the Cheonggyecheon stream. And this was our first up-close look at the river. It was actually kind of unbelievable how this place used to be sewage and icky because it was so peaceful and clean. There were people actually using the space as a place of leisure and as intended to be. It was mind-blowing, but in a good way. I should also point out that this stream didn't even have any bad smells, so they did an excellent job cleaning this river up. Just one I can hear your babbling. And if you really wanted to cross to the other side, these rock pads were placed every so often along the stream. I definitely recommend coming here if you ever visit Seoul, especially if you love nature as much as I do. On my journal, I decided to make this drawing of the stream to place it in the spread since I didn't find any pictures of this place in the magazine I got. After seeing all there was to experience at the Cheonggyecheon stream, we were making our way back to the Design Plaza because we were going to take another tour bus around Seoul called the Gyeongbokgung course to get to the Olympic Park. And in the Olympic Park, there was one specific monument I wanted to check out personally, but we'll get to that later. As you can see, by this time, we had arrived at the DDP and it seemed like the place was a lot calmer. And before heading to the bus, we quickly made our way inside one of the buildings for a quick bathroom break. With our bladders empty, we were now ready to get on the tour bus and see more of Seoul. To the day.
quero então seu shopping?
Eu não entendo, você quer entrar nos seus vídeos ou não? Ok, não.
Essa é a minha special appearance.
Não é você, você já sei.
Aqui ó, minha special. Não, é só uma dedo.
Oi, Gi, tudo bem? Ótimo. After waiting for a little while, goofing off here and there, we were finally moving on our second bus tour. And at this point, some of us were feeling very tired from all the walking and talking. Okay, so let me try and explain myself while past me has a quick laugh. I was filming the scenery and didn't notice Juju was sleeping. I thought this is gonna be such a cool shot with her in it. And it was only when I saw her head bobbing around that I realized she was not conscious, okay? Something I wanted to point out is that during this bus tour, it really felt like we were in city skylines because of how perfect every single street and corner of Seoul felt. If you have no idea of what I'm talking about, it's basically a city building game. And here we were beginning to cross the bridge that overpasses the Han River. It is one of the most important rivers in South Korea. Another place we were fast approaching was the Lotte World Tower, and this is the 6th tallest building in the world.
This tower hosts its 123rd floor, 555-meter height, multiplex cinema, and the biggest aquarium in Korea. Thanks to its height, its visitors can...
Que foi, Fia?
273 varieties of roses. This place had been designed and themed of where the ancient Olympic meets its modern.
Here we were reaching near our stop at the Rose Garden, but we actually didn't make it to the Rose Garden because we were on a tight schedule to check out the monument called Le Pouce and the Olympic Park before the final bus of the day passes by again. But this park is ginormous, so we had to look for directions on how to get there. And if you're wondering, I was the one that came up with the idea of visiting this monument in the first place.
Eu também achei. Mas é o dedão.
So this is it, Le Pouce. I thought it was gonna be a bigger statue, but it turns out it was not. This is not your typical tourist attraction, so there were a lot of Koreans staring at me and wondering what the heck is this girl doing, posing with the giant thumb. But it's not every day you see something like this. And on my journal, I'm just adding this as one of the attractions we saw that day. Now, next on our list, we were heading towards the Olympic Park World Peace Gate because it's basically the main symbol of this park and where the bus stop is. I also found these Juju tiles, which I thought was so cute because I'm obviously Juju, so it's basically my tile. If you didn't already know, this park was designed for the 1986 Asian Games and the 1988 Seoul Olympic Games. And today it is used as a leisure complex for its Korean citizens. During that day specifically, there were a lot of people enjoying their time there, which I loved. So we're kind of lost right now. Usually I don't talk during these videos, but maybe I'm getting a little bit more comfortable. So yeah, we're lost, and I'm gonna see a map that's right up front to see where we are and how to get back because we have to get to the bus stop before I think like about 6. So yeah, that's what's happening right now. After checking out the map and reorienting ourselves, we felt more at ease to people watch the other park visitors while we made our way to the World Peace Gate. During this walk, we made the mental calculations and the possibility of us making it to the bus on time were close to zero.
Que foi? O menininho ficou te encarando assim, ó. O que você falou? Nada. Quando ele falou thank you.
Since we were nowhere near catching the bus, we slowed down our pace a bit to enjoy the sunset. This was when we had finally reached the World Peace Gate, and this thing was so tall, you guys. I love the use of colors underneath the tails, the symmetry, and all the flags on the opposite side. It was breathtaking. Back to the journal, I made this drawing of a tiny person under the monument to show how big this thing really was. After taking all the pictures we wanted, we made our way to the nearest subway station so we could go back to our hotel. Weirdly enough, the station looked pretty empty and it was giving liminal space energy. Like, where are the people? They were down by the tracks, by the way. I was just being dramatic. And this was when we were finally back near our hotel, but first we made a quick stop at the coffee shop next door to have a light dinner before we call it a day. So this is what I ordered. It was a bacon guacamole sandwich with a matcha milkshake, and it was a good treat after all that walking we did on this day. Finally, here I'm adding the last entry, which is all the meals we had on day 10. I don't quite remember why, but I grabbed a refresher to go. Anyways, when we reached the hotel, we encountered some problems.
Please press the button for the desired floor.
Yeah, I will. Just hold on a sec.
Yeah, go.
I will.
We took a while to find our keys, but it all worked out in the end. And if you're wondering, this is how the pages for days 10 and 11 turned out.
Going up.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you when I see you. Alright, bye!